That's why everybody probably goes, he's a prick, before they meet me, because they like, honestly, like, it's the story of my life. Like,
going back to that point of like word of mouth's massive. If you can convince somebody like this is the brand for them, then, and somebody asks and they're like, oh mate, you should buy that, the quality's brilliant, like, and then you get another guy saying it, another guy's like, that's better than any paid advertising you can.
But you see Trent Alexander-Arnold at F1, he had some fucking cool watches on, like
he's a cool guy.
I mean, I don't know about the Don Greasy he had on it.
Cool, on you go.
Well, welcome to this week's episode of The Inspiration, where we sort of speak to people about their journey in business or sport or anything. So this week we've got Will Reid. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks for coming on.
Good to be on, eh? Good to have you.
Play fives with Will. He's actually not too bad at football, but he's better at selling watches. So we just wanted to get him on and speak to him about his journey, how he got into it, and where he plans to take it. So, hi, Will. Thanks for coming on. And how did you sort of get into selling watches?
We just had this conversation actually with one of my clients. We were in Edinburgh, just seeing a guy, and everybody always asks, like, he's quite a young guy, like his mum and dad are quite successful, and he's always like, you can kind of tell he's quite interested in like buying and selling stuff, and like just kind of wants to get going in business. And he was saying to me, oh, how did you get started? And basically what happened was I was at uni and left uni when I was like 21.
What were you doing at uni?
I'd done mechanical engineering at
uni.
So basically I was at uni, left uni when I was 21, and went to work in Fort William. It was just fucking miles away, mate. I was
you've been up that way, football up in Inverness, mate, and Fort William's even worse than that.
Yeah, I was getting up at like 6 a.m, like driving through. It was like 2 and a bit there, 2 and a bit back, and I was knackered. Like I worked there for like.
What were you doing up there?
Engineering firm up there, big engineering firm up there. So they were basically like they designed like oil spools for oil rigs. Like they would design like the drilling rigs and like all that thing. So you basically up there just sitting on a computer all day long, like the most boring fucking shite job you could ever imagine. But the pay was good, and just kind of like a graduate job. It wasn't really something that like I was thinking, oh, I'll do this forever. It was just my mum and dad were like basically like, away you go to uni, like, because we don't trust you to do anything else. So like, I went to uni and got the degree and then started working basically. And I was up there for 6 months. My dad took not well. Actually, like one day I got a phone call and it was like, he's in intensive care hospital. You need to come back. But this was like nearly 10 years ago now. So jumped in my car, drove all the way back, and just never went back.
Handed the notice in, and
mate, it was just like, do you know that way? I was just thinking like, I actually hate it, like, and that was just like the catalyst for me to then. I was like, I fucking can't be bothered going back there. Like, what I think that's when like young entrepreneurs kind of kick off. It's like from doing something that you hate to going, I can't do that anymore. I want to do something that I'm passionate. And like, I've always been interested in like. I've always been like a bit of a grafter, like buying and selling stuff, and like even since I was
always comes from is buying and selling. He says when he did it when he was younger, it doesn't seem to be matter. Kind of find what your passion of buying and selling is, but you're always just interested in sort of buying and selling something.
Yeah. Everybody wants to make a few quid, don't they? So like that's obviously the big driver of it as well. So I think to yourself, you want to work for yourself, you want to work for somebody else. And like looking back, I used to think like the career progression in an engineering firm was so long. Like the guys in that office that have been doing that job for 35 years, maybe on double the wage that a guy was that was just started, but like for 35 years worth of work. Do you know what I mean? It's
35 years experience as well. Imagine having that in your own business.
Exactly. So all of that just to really get that far in that industry. And I know there's different pathways obviously, and people do really well in that industry, but when I was young at the time I was just quite narrow-minded. I just thought I don't want to stay there forever and fucking have to do this job forever. So basically left it back. My dad was not well, and I was like, I need to start doing something myself, and just kind of thought, well, my mum and dad had thankfully bought me a watch on my 18th birthday, and I sold it. I know I did, but it sounds like really bad, like when I say that to people. But I'm always, I'm like, oh, like an ungrateful wee bastard. But I just didn't like it. I never really wore it. It was a steel and gold Daytona.
Did you sell it quite quickly, or did you have it for a while before you sort of?
No, it was a steel and gold Daytona with a grey dial. So basically, what I started doing was like, mum and dad got a few watches, like man, to have a few watches. I basically kind of just started like taking pictures of people's watches and like posting them online. But this is like 2014, right? Yeah. So like long
similar
time ago,
times like, obviously when me started. It was kind of the early days of like that Instagram.
You've only really period, it was really, it was weird. Like you
didn't really know you didn't really know what you're doing.
I was like, I'll just start this and kind of see. I always kind of had an interest in watches and cars.
Were you more trying to just show off the watches to start with?
No. It was like I set up like a business page. It was like it's always been William Reid watches like the whole time, and I basically just started the page and then just eventually taking pictures of other people's stuff, and I would even like go online and grab a picture of like a watch that I liked and like post it up, kid on, and I had it for sale, but like I really never did. And then eventually I was like, well, to give this a good go, like, I obviously need like have some sort of money behind me, like to sell this, and the only money I had at the time was like the watch that my mum and dad bought me, which I didn't really like anyway. So I was like, fuck it. I said to mum and dad, like, look, I'm not being rude, but like, would you mind if I sold that? Like, I just said to them,
your business.
I want to buy myself something else that I like, but they didn't really know, and they never believed in me for the start. They were just like, oh, you can't really sell the first watch we got you, and like, do you know what I mean? It's like a gift. You should keep that forever. And
I think that's an older generation thing as well. It's like when a son or daughter comes to them and says, I want to do this, or I'm going to do this, and like, it's like, nah, you shouldn't be doing that.
From their point of view, they probably bought you that watch as a sentimental thing as well. They maybe had that, but then
you guys have got kids and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So like, if you think about, obviously we're in a different generation now where social media and, you know, like, marketing is completely different than it was when my parents were young. So thinking about how they maybe created a life for themselves from when they were my age until, in comparison to like what young people do now to try and create a life for themselves with YouTube and like
probably
online
so
brands,
aliens,
they're just sitting. Plus my own dad, like, you couldn't work a phone anyway, so like my mum get rid of her house phone and kept her mobile and doesn't take the mobile outside the house with her. Do you know what I mean? So it's like she's one of the people that just doesn't really do well with technology.
I was doing something, so I just didn't know. I was doing something for my mum, like help, like try to just clear up all her sort of finance of it. She's our partner passed away. I moved her through to Bovril to be closer to us. And I was just trying to sort her finances out, and she was like, a phone contract. So I was trying to sort out. She's paying too much, and then she was like, they were like, oh, you've just entered another contract. Now what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, she got a new phone as well. And I was like, what? I was like, Mum, is this the case? She's like, yeah, they said something about it. And she said, oh, wait a minute. She took me upstairs and she opened the drawer and she had like 10 phones in the drawer. She had iPhones and Samsung. I was like, why have you got all these? Oh, they just give me them free. When I'm like, they are not free. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to sign up for 2 hours. She just didn't get it.
So basically that's what they were like, and I sold the watch and then used the money that I got from that watch, basically just start buying and selling watches. Kind of started, I got about 7 or 8 grand for that watch at the time, but that at the time could buy you 2 Rolexes. Obviously a completely different story now. Like, you couldn't cut your arse with 7 grand now trying to buy a watch, but and that was it. And then just kind of started for there, and that was kind of 2014. And then I just kind of snowballed it for there, and
just kept it going from there.
Just ever since, I just managed to keep it going, and that's kind of how it started.
So do you just run everything yourself, or you got like
Josh, who's sitting there? People won't be able to see that, but Josh is sitting there. So Josh has worked with me now for what, 8 months or something? 8 months. But up until that point, it was a one-man band, cymbals and
cool.
the fucking accordion.
Do you feel better when you've got somebody to, like? Because obviously we talk about all the time having the business, and it's me and Rob, and I don't think I'd want to do it on my own.
Are you two quite different in terms of, like, do you pull in different directions? Because they always say like the most successful businesses, I've got 2 people who have different sets of beliefs.
I think we're very similar, but we also do like
aye.
sort of like, say, fashion sense is maybe a bit different, and we've got different ideas of certain things, but we're also quite like people.
I think from the football background that we're pretty similar. So the ethics of like a business, or like being part of a team and trying to create a team, and we came from that dressing room and try to take that dressing room environment into the business. That's what's similar between the two of us.
I wouldn't say like argue or bicker, but like in football, like people in the office are like, whoa, and then you're just like 2 minutes later, like, how do you want a tea or that? And you're like, cool. Do you know what I mean? It just it's from that football environment. But yeah,
I think it's definitely beneficial. Like, I think what I was quite guilty of when I was running it myself is you're your own boss, right? So you like, you have a good week, the next week you're a bit like, oh, I'll just chill out a bit and like not really do anything. Or if you're having a bad time in relationships, or you fell out with somebody, or you're in a bad mood, or you're not feeling great, or whatever, you just kind of push your work to one side, and it takes a bit of a back seat. So actually, like, the driving force behind the business, which is obviously yourself, if you work for yourself, is it kind of can be quite difficult to maintain the same level all the time. So that's what I find. I think with like having someone, obviously Josh, who's been the first person that's ever worked with me up until now, it pulls you always and like to try and better yourself every day, try and do something else every single day, so it pulls you along rather than
fresh impetus coming in. Like, if you've been doing it for such a long time and then you come with this
fresh ideas is always good.
Enthusiasm, it's good.
Exactly. It's difficult as well. Like, I'm probably quite difficult to work with, because like I've been doing this for so long now. Like, I've seen the good times, the bad times. Like 10 years in selling watches is like 40 years selling anything else. Do you know what I mean? Like,
even just like selling in fashion, like
you get ups and downs. Like, it's the same. Like, I've seen the market on its arse. I've seen it at the highest point it's ever been. Like, so I've seen it all before, and I've got all that experience, and I know how I want to do things. So I can imagine it's probably quite difficult, like, especially coming in and having to like work with me in that way. But it's definitely beneficial for the business. It pulls it in the right direction all the time. It saves you just being like a bit stagnant all the time.
At what point did you, when you were starting, at what point did you think I can sort of make a decent career out of this?
I don't really ever think, honestly, I actually don't ever think that I thought about I can make a decent career out of it. It was just more like I had an interest in watches. I was always interested in watches, and like my sister had watches, and like my dad had watches, and like I'd always like it was like a success thing for me. I always like attached that to success, so I always thought the point where I kind of started business was I just wanted a nice watch, and then eventually when I started getting like nice watches all the time, then that's when I was like, right, okay, like once you build up a bit and you've got clients, and then
you're selling a few,
you get a little bit of responsibility where you're like managing your own money and managing the business's money and managing clients' expectations and dealing with people you've never met before. I think that's then when it starts to become, right, okay, like maybe this could be something that I could create, you know, like a life for myself and not have to have a normal job.
Have you built the business up on like repeat business, or like has there been a lot of first time stuff?
Like
you know,
loads.
you say clients, like do you find like a client comes in, you look after them,
sticks with you
and then they stick with you, or do the people who are really into buying these maybe high end watches, do they jump about looking for the best deal, or
you get both, to be honest. You get clients that are like so loyal, like to a fault, where like they won't go anywhere else. Like it's just like they're just like, I want you to deal with my stuff. You find that quite a lot of people are quite private, like quite wealthy people. I've been lucky, like the last couple of years I would say we've met some really, really wealthy clients, and they are very, very specific to who they deal with, who they trust, where they meet you, you know, who they introduce you to. So those kind of clients they value their privacy way more than like Joe Blogs off the street who just wants a normal watch. So you find you get
relationship as well, you sort of build with them.
I'll tell you a funny story in a minute, remind me, but they are really all about privacy, and they want to deal with you, they want to deal with the same guy all the time, especially when you're talking about like high ticket items, you know, 50 grand, 100 grand, 150 grand plus. Like these watches there's a lot of trust involved in being able to buy and sell them, and you need to have a length of experience to be able to do it. So those kind of clients you get loads of repeat business from, especially if you do like a good deal, or you've like steered them in the right direction, or told them not to sell something because it's got a chance of getting discontinued or whatever. But then you also get the other clients who are like, I call it, like, sometimes you get tire kickers who are just like shopping about every Tom, Dick and Harry who sells watches, trying to get the best deal.
Sure.
And then you also get guys who buy stuff and then maybe go and buy for somebody else, and then they'll come back to you a couple of years later, or buy something for somebody else and then sell it back to you. So you get all kinds of clients.
Just when you were saying there, so do you don't just sort of buy and sell, do you advise people on that? So if somebody came to you and you're like, you could make some money off that, would you tell them to keep that if you had a good relationship with
100%. I mean, I don't do it with everybody because I attach value to that. For me, that's my 10 years experience. That's me looking at the market, being able to forecast where something's going to go. It's also experience in, you know, how much of a certain watch am I getting asked for on a daily basis, how much of a certain watch am I not getting asked for. You know, is there a shortage of supply of a certain watch right now? Is there not a shortage of supply? So it all depends on the time of year. Only with my really good clients I'll give them advice on that, because the way I see that is that's got value attached to it. I don't give that advice for free. So unless you're buying stuff from me and you're trusting in me,
that relationship,
then that has to, I'll give you that advice. Like we had a client, you know, not that long ago, who was thinking about selling, you know, a watch, and I said to him, look, you should definitely keep that. I said, because like I'd love to buy it off you, and it was cheap as chips, and I would have made probably 25-30% on it. But I was like, look, you should definitely keep that. And then all of a sudden now it's worth 25 grand more than he was going to sell it, you know, 18 months ago. And that's the kind of thing that at that time seems like you're not doing a big favour, but when that client looks back on that, they'll stick with you forever, because they go,
1,000,000%.
he steered me in the right direction.
He's made me money.
We had a client today who was trying to trade in 4 or 5 watches against like one of the big watches we've got in stock, and he was like, I just want to trade them all in. And I said, don't trade that in, keep that, because he bought it at retail. I said, but I'll take the other 3 off you. I said, because that'll be worth money in, you know, 3-4 years time. And he's like, no, I appreciate that. So you need to look after your good clients. Obviously not everybody gets that service, but
do you source watches for people as well, or do you just have the watches you have and then they sort of
sourcing's like one of our main parts of the business. I would say the business is probably changed a lot in the last 3-4 years in comparison to what it was previously. So like, previously we would just like have a certain amount of watches in stock, and then we would try and sell the stuff we've got, and that is still the case. We do still have loads of watches in stock, but the majority of our business now is sourcing really hard stuff to get that people can't just go anywhere and buy. Stuff like we had a client asked for a 2704 last week, which is Rafa Nadal's like 50 pieces made. It's like $1.8 million, but like that watch you can't just go and find anywhere, and that's the kind of place that I want the business to be, because then you don't get oh, I've asked this guy, and this guy, and he's £100 cheaper, so I'm going to go to him.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask. Like, what's the next stages? Is that where you would like to take the business and let?
I think like anything, like your expectation and the things that you like change the more that you work in a certain field, right? So like at the start, I loved sub dates, right? And I'm not throwing anything against a submariner date, but now I just don't attach the same value to that because I've seen so much more. So my experience is a lot vaster. So now I love the big stuff that's super hard to get and like the rare stuff. Like that's really where I love it. And you always want to work. Well, for me, like I always want to work in a field that I love my job. So when I'm trying to source stuff like that for clients, like gets you out your bed in the morning. Like
a buzz when you manage to source it.
Oh, it gives you a buzz because you know, like you've pulled through for someone, you've got them something really cool, something hard to find, and they're buzzing with it as well because they know it's difficult to find. Otherwise, they would go and buy it. So that's where I would love to take the business. The problem you've got is that the barriers to entry at that level are so big. The amount of money you need to trade at that level is so massive, and the competition you've got. You know, people have got 15, 20, 25 million quid's worth of stock. Guys that have got a lot of money love to go to an office, you know, in the middle of London or the middle of New York and sit and look at 35, 40 watches and try them all on. So that's the biggest barrier. You're almost having to get a guy who can afford that to trust you and tell you specifically that's the watch I want. Go and find it.
Unless instead of the window shop.
Instead of basically
having like 10 watches all at that value that you can sort of pick from.
It's like a guy coming in here, right, and you having one t-shirt. Like, but the t-shirt being £600, do you know what I mean? Or he could go along the road and try on 30 t-shirts and pick the one he likes. So that's when you really need to rely on repeat business and good deals that you've done in the past for somebody to trust you. So it's transitional, like it changes all the time, but that's where I would love to take the business. But you just need a fat wallet to take it there.
What's your favourite watch and what's the best watch you've sourced?
My favourite, a favourite watch, that's a hard one. Really hard.
What's my favourite?
2702 RM is probably one of my favourites. It's like a grey ceramic, but again they're like £2 million. I love a 39mm AP skeleton perpetual calendar in yellow gold, but they're like 250 grand. They are probably my top two. If someone said to me tomorrow you can only have two watches for the rest of your life, I'd have those two. But it's hard to say, mate. There's so many cool watches out there that are like, when you see them in real life you think, fuck, that's so nice. I didn't think that was going to be as nice.
You know when you see like celebrities on the TV and stuff like that, and like they're wearing, like they've been styled and they're wearing this watch, it's 250 grand. Do you get like, holy shit, like that's like...
I don't know if you've seen anything from the F1, but you see Trent Alexander-Arnold at the F1, he had some fucking cool watches on. Like
he's a cool guy. I
don't know about the Dongarees he had on right but the watch he had on, like Baguette, Diamond Bezel, Patek, Grand Complication, like when I seen that I was like, that's just cool as fuck. Virgil had a really cool AP on. It was like the tourbillon with the red dial, like a super rare, like you just can't find them.
It's quite cool that you notice stuff like that, because I probably notice like I notice what people are wearing like clothes wise.
I'm mad into clothes as well.
I wouldn't maybe notice their watch. Do you know what I mean? I notice he's got a nice, but I wouldn't obviously know.
I Trent like a 6702 on as well, like stuff like that. You're just like, that's just mega cool. Like, I do get a bit of a buzz off that, but there's very few people who I'm like they wear cool stuff. Like some people just wear watches because they've been given them.
Okay.
But there's some cool, but like Charles Leclerc's got some cool stuff.
It's probably like clothes as well. I bet there's like kind of like obvious like expensive watches, but then there's like discreet like expensive like cool watches as well. Do you know what I mean?
Oh mate, 100%. Like there's like I'll wear a 36mm pink OP, which is a women's watch, but just because I'm like I actually think it's quite cool. But loads of stuff like that, like I'll wear because I'm like, oh, it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like just because you think it's cool, like clothes are the same. Like I'm wearing Zara clothes a lot of the time. Like, but you just wear a nice watch, you wear a nice pair of trainers, like it looks different, or like whatever. It's not just about the most expensive thing. Don't get me wrong. Like when you see the big expensive stuff, you're always like that is fucking cool. But you know, you can't afford it, so it is what it is.
How do you afford? You always probably think like, how do you afford that? It's like an expensive watch. That.
See, like away from work, like what's your kind of hobbies? What you into sport or?
But obviously play football. We've played football a few times together. Play football, play golf. What?
We can call it playing football.
Play football, play golf.
Speaking about golf, are you quite a keen golfer?
I played loads last year. Not played as much this year. One because of the weather, two just because I've been so busy.
Do a lot of business on the golf course as well.
It's quite. They go hand in hand really. Like guys that like watches, guys that play golf, like, all the golfers are all sponsored by watch companies.
Yeah, sure.
The big sponsors, Rolex are a massive sponsor of the golf, AP are a big sponsor, Omega are a big sponsor, so there's loads of, it works well together, so you find that a lot of guys who play golf drive nice cars, wear nice watches, and plus it's a great day out. So
when it's sunny,
that's
sunny enough in
what we
Scotland
struggled for here. Just
you're learning to live in Spain or something, didn't you, or Portugal, and just
I was in Turkey last week, and just like the quality of the courses is just like
grass just grows, doesn't it? It doesn't grow in Scotland.
Exactly. I bet in the summer it grows after
Scotland.
I know
it's the weeds in the rough that grows in Scotland in the summer, and just keep losing balls left, right, and centre.
How did you two like just dream up the business? I'm quite interested to know. Just both of you
we're both sort of coming to the end of our careers, and he'd gone away to Thailand, and I was like, surely there's something over there, surely something over there we can sell back here they've not got here. And they end up sending me t-shirts, but just on stalls he'd gone around, and there were just designs, just
on
like
the street,
random
it was
designs,
just like little market stalls, and I was just like, I quite like all this stuff. It's like it's quite trendy, and like
it was like mad designs, like it was like basketballs with loads of like before tattoos were sort of massive in. It was like a basketball and loads of tattoos, and then it would have like Marilyn Monroe's head on, or so, just like weird sort of designs that they dreamed up.
Just like graphic designers creating their own like funky designs, and then I was sending them to him, like sending photos, and going, mate, we could sell these back home. And then I think we'd had maybe a few rounds of me packing them up and sending them back to him. And the boy I was buying them off, this Italian guy, was like, mate, you should start your own brand. I can see how many you're buying. Where are you selling them? I says, I'm
just on eBay, and just the
eBay,
boys
at
like,
football.
I was at Ross County and that at the time, do you know what I mean? Just going out,
and he was like, I'll make them for you. I could quite easily like just make a small number, and then we'll just get some graphics and do them on the front, but we'll brand them up with whatever like, logos, whatever you want, the name you want, stuff like that. He was actually making all the stuff for the merch for DC10 at the time. Right, okay. So I was kind of like, well, I kind of trust him. Like, I've worked up a wee relationship with him, and he's obviously sending stuff to Europe, and he's sending loads every summer. So. And
are you with the same guy now?
Nah. No. Yeah, I still keep in touch with him now and again. But the reason we moved away from Thailand was just like things like even small things like shipping costs, and like maybe like. He was just making a plain white T-shirt and then a graphic on it, but we've kind of developed like, different fabrics and stuff, so your fabric options were kind of limited in Thailand, so we quite quickly moved, well, probably say like a year or 2 year in, we moved a lot of production to Turkey. And
one of the things I was going to say regarding you is like, one of the things that sort of kicked us on was like using footballers, and kind of before influencers really were influencers, before we even knew what was happening, we were saying like Charlie Mulgrew or Scott Brown or whoever, like, go and wear that for us and take a photo. Like James McCarthy, they went to Hamilton, Stephen Naismith, and they were putting on like their Facebook or even early days Instagram, and it sort of kicked us on. Is that something that, like, have you used any sort of like, what social media or are people quite private, they don't really want people to know what they're buying or stuff like that?
It's funny with us, like, obviously we can't just go and give somebody a watch and say, like, going to take a picture of that and wear it.
Sure.
So you're kind of up against it in terms of marketing in that sense. The thing that goes in our favour is that the watches really sell themselves.
Yeah.
So there's a demand regardless if I exist or I don't.
Yeah.
So like
we're trying to create a brand.
Different we use.
Got established brands.
It's not like you're selling Rolex T-shirts. Like you've got your own brand, so you're having to create that brand and sell the brand's product. Whereas with us, luckily enough, we're basically just a glorified middleman that gives people the vehicle to buy the watches that they want.
So how do they come across your vehicle?
Which Instagram, social media, word of mouth's a massive thing. Loads of people word of mouth. TikTok obviously now is really good for us.
Rob was saying, look at your TikTok.
I'm just a couple of random videos you post up about it, and it just
the
like, you
reach
get like
is
a million
brilliant on
views.
it,
It's been massive for us doing the street styling, and people come in the store, man. It's been mad. Like literally everyone walks past. Oh, that's that brand. There's a street style.
People never come past the store and say, "Oh, I've seen your sponsored adverts on Facebook or Instagram."
Watch any interviews for anybody high up at Instagram. They'll tell you they don't work.
They actually come past and say, "Oh, I've seen the videos on TikTok." It's not all organic for the sake of
has
us going
to be
out on the
organic
street
content.
and doing the work, and it just makes such a difference.
Honestly, organic content is where it's at. You need it. It's funny with me, like I've believed in the same marketing strategy from the get go. Right, make a watch look good in a certain situation, it will sell itself. Like I don't think you need to do sponsored ads. I don't think you need to, like, there's nothing worse than a picture of watching a box. Like, who the fuck's that? Who's that for?
How can they see it in the setting?
Do you know what I mean? It's like you constantly putting up pictures of that T-shirt on that mannequin. Somebody wants to look like
it's lifeless, isn't it?
You need to look like, how's that going to look on me? Is that make me going to look good when I'm sitting in my car? Is it going to make me look good when I'm sitting at a restaurant?
What's
like you need to put someone in that position to then sell the watch. And it's a bit different at the lower end of the scale. Like when you're talking like bog standard Rolex, everyone's seen a Sub, everyone's seen a GMT, everyone's seen a Daytona. They know what they look like. When you're talking about the bigger end of the stuff, seeing something in a setting, like in a nice restaurant, in a nice hotel, sitting somewhere that's quite exclusive, like people then buy into that like whole picture. It's not just about the.
That's why we could do all the photo shoots abroad.
I've seen your stuff abroad as well. Like it's you need to. It's the exact same thing. You need to show someone
without actually even realising in the early days. Like we went away to Dubai, like.
Basically, just because we wanted to go
because we wanted to go to these places. It was almost like a holiday for us, which we then
turned into
models, couple of models, bring the collection to then have like kind of a couple of nights out when we're there and enjoying like everything that was.
Yeah.
But that's like how it should be, because that's exactly what the guys are going to be doing that are wearing the clothes. So they're going to be going on holidays, going on nights out, doing that thing. That's what sells the stuff. And it's the same with the watches. Like taking a picture of a watch in a box, like, it doesn't give any value. Anybody you could do that tomorrow, and I'm not saying that you want to be good at selling watches, but if I gave you a watch tomorrow and I went, go and take a picture and put it on your Instagram, like anybody could do it. You need to make it look good and feel good in the setting, and it's about selling the. It's almost about not selling the watch, but selling the lifestyle that the watch attaches itself to.
Because that's why people wear a watch, isn't it? Because they want to feel a certain way.
So much emotion attached to watches. Like, I'm devoid of it now because I've done it for so long that it doesn't bother me the more if you say to me you can never wear a watch again. But when I first started, like, it was my dream to wear a watch. So, and guys are the same. Like, they work.
Like I said, I had that feeling. I obviously spoke to you about. I've got like an AP, and my missus got me for my engagement. When I first got it, I was like, oh man, that's class. Like, I love that.
Makes you feel good, mate. Like, see when you put on a nice watch, you're wearing a nice outfit, you're going in a nice place, like, makes you feel good, makes you feel important. It's like jumping in a nice car, driving a nice car, wearing nice clothes. It's all the same feeling.
Yeah.
So that's just how you need to almost market that feeling.
Yeah.
Rather than marketing the product.
If you get that feeling across to somebody, they're way more likely to buy that.
Exactly. It's like if somebody comes in here, right, and they wear a nice t-shirt and they go on a night out and 5 people say to them, oh mate, nice t-shirt, where'd you get a t-shirt from?
Feedback we get.
Guy will come back
on social media. We get so many people coming to us and say, oh, I bought that jacket off you last week. Oh, I see the amount of people were asking me where I got it. And then you maybe get a guy in America saying it, and then a guy in Germany saying the same thing. You're like, oh, well, it's obviously like that's. And it's going back to that point of like word of mouth. Word of mouth's massive. If you can convince somebody like this is the brand for them, then. And somebody asks and they're like, oh mate, you should buy that, the quality's brilliant. Like, and then you get another guy saying it, another guy's like, that's better than any paid advertising you can do.
Really paid advertisement's so stagnant now. Like, unless you've got a big massive company who's all over it 24/7, running ad sets and everything else, it just doesn't. I just don't find it provides my business any value. And I really think for me,
it must be tough for especially for an Instagram sponsored post for a high ticket. Like, imagine how much you would need to spend to actually sell that product.
You need to know people really before.
Yeah, you're also up against it, I think, as well. I know you mentioned the footballers, right? And like you're kind of up against it with people like that because they've got access to a lot of the stuff at retail price anyway. So they've got, like, if a guy that plays for Celtic walks in to watch Switzerland, like, chances of him getting something at retail or the chances of me walking in who doesn't do anything and isn't famous getting something at retail, it's worlds apart. So they've got that access, which you're then up against as well. So you're almost having to miss out them and just get the people who have got, like, don't have the access, can't be bothered with the waiting times.
Sort of fame, but they've got the money to buy it. Sort of thing.
Exactly. I don't think the brands have done themselves any favours in the last 3 or 4 years. They've just completely took the piss out of customers, like making people spend 150 grand to get a 25 grand watch at list.
Well, see, like, that's one thing I was going to say. Obviously, during sort of COVID, watches. Obviously, my watch went through the roof in value. Watches went through the roof. What was the cause of that?
So there's loads of different causes of that. There's about 5, really, to be honest. Obviously, COVID, massive cause of that. Everybody was locked down. Borders were closed. Nobody could go anywhere, which then restricted watches from moving anywhere, which then made watches in the UK more valuable because there was only a limited amount of them. So effectively, like, reduced the supply. The demand went through the roof because everybody had fortunes. Because everybody was getting furloughed, people were getting bounce back loans, people were getting, loans for the government for anything as long as you had a company registered before the 3rd of March. Like, you could have a nail bar and get 50 grand and the nail bar could never have been open. Like, no disrespect to people that do nails, but I'm just making that as an example. So there was loads of money. Like, money was the cheapest it's ever been. Like, you were borrowing money at 1%, 2%. Like, in crazy amounts. So that all had different effects. Brexit, another massive effect. Then all of a sudden, the watches used to trade on something called the single market, whereas you could trade watches on the margin scheme, which meant I could buy a watch if you were in Germany and you were my supplier. I could buy a watch from you, it could get shipped to the UK straight to me, and I would only pay VAT on the margin that I made. So if I sell a watch for 11,000 that I bought off you for 10,000, I only pay 20% on the £1,000 profit. Whereas now it's completely different. Every company's different. Every country's different. So depends on where you're buying from. Depends on the import export. You've got loads of stuff like that to deal with.
Duties are just nuts since Brexit.
Duties, you've got that. It's different with everywhere you go. Then you've got stuff stuck at borders for 3 and 4 weeks at a time, and watch business is quick. People want to buy it. Somebody wants to buy a 50 grand watch, they want it. They don't want to wait 3 weeks for it.
Are the duties on the watches the same as the clothing? Like clothing's like
they'll be completely different.
We're like, so if a customer orders from us from a website and they spend over €150, like there's a 12% duty that we have to pay. So because we cover it, like, so we do all like the duties delivered paid. So the customer from Germany he orders 2 pairs of cargos, for example. It's 170 quid, €170. So then there's a 12% duty on that we have to pay, as well as the shipping costs. So before Brexit, that just wasn't a thing. It was a case of, and there was no paperwork, so there was a shipping time of like say 2 days with DPD into Germany. Now you're talking 3-4 days, and people aren't prepared to wait.
No. It's the same thing. Like some of the countries, especially the Nordic countries, it's a percentage of the value of the item. So all of a sudden you're buying a 100 grand watch and you've got 20% to pay. It's 20 grand.
There you go.
Some people go, well, it's not what I'll just buy it in Iceland, or I'll buy it in wherever I am. So you're then up against it with that. Your business then really goes from being a European business to really being a UK business, which then creates everything in the UK, which is inside the UK and ready to go, then becomes more valuable. So there's loads of different factors that affected that. I mean, I don't know if you've seen The Big Short. Have you seen that film, The Big Short?
I've seen bits of it, but I've not
basically
seen it.
It's about guys who short the housing market, when the housing market's like sky high and they make like hundreds of millions of pounds, right? If I could have shorted the watch market 2 years ago, I'd have put every single penny anybody would have gave me into it, because I knew for a fact that, you know, like a rose gold day date by Green Dial was selling for £80,000, right? Like that's
nuts, isn't it?
That just doesn't make sense. It's a mass produced watch. Just because they were a wee bit hard to get during COVID, they were going for like stupid money. I used to sell them to customers and say, listen mate, like, I'm happy to sell you it, like, but please don't come back to me in a year's time and try and sell me this back, 'cause I guarantee you it'll be half the price. Sure enough, they're now 40 grand. So like people lost fortunes because of companies that in this industry that were new into it during COVID, because they got a couple of bounce back loans and they had all of a sudden 100 grand to play with. Like, they were then trading watches, and loads of new guys started trading watches during COVID, and they were giving out bad advice. So people lost fortunes, which then alienated a lot of customers outside the grey market. So you're up against loads of different things, but the prices during COVID were absolutely like crazy, mate. Like,
it's
stuff
a crazy time, COVID, wasn't it? It's just like
crazy time for everything. Looking back on it, like
you kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I totally.
You didn't even really see when people say like that was fucking mental, but you just sort of brushed it, like you brush it away. That like
I feel as if I was fucking 26 and then I was 30. Then
that's what
I didn't know what happened.
I said that last week. It's like during COVID, like start of COVID, I think I was like late 30s, and it's like I feel like I'm just a different person now than that.
Mate, it was just
town. If I went into the town now, I'd be like, who's this old guy? I feel ancient.
I know. It's mad, but COVID was a crazy time. Like, luxury goods market in general was mental. Cars, houses, watches, everything was sky high. So the only thing that's probably stayed is that the house market's still pretty high. But car market's on its arse. Watch market was on its arse, has now picked up a bit of steam probably in the last 7 or 8 months and is doing well again.
We found the first year of COVID class, because people were sitting in the house, and, like you say, like furlough, not doing anything.
We're not spending 25 quid a day and parting and the lunch and everything else. So all of a sudden at the end of the week they've got an extra 200 quid.
I was looking at their phone constantly. So they had all this disposable income. Market was
on
cheap as
house
anything.
party.
Everyone was just on
house party. That was
amazing. And so they were just buying stuff. And then the second year of COVID was more difficult, because they'd fucking bought all the stuff. They had nowhere to wear it. They didn't have any space.
It was a bit like the first year's like supply and demand. Like our mills and factories were struggling for fabric because everyone was closed. So basically we were just like, what fabric's available? Like, can we make that, and stuff was coming in, selling like
it was
anything, honestly. And then the second year was like you said, people still had the stuff in the cupboard with the tags on it.
It's funny. Like, it was a really great time, obviously for businesses that sell like luxury stuff. Like, unprecedented. You'll never see that again, probably in a lifetime. What those 2 and a bit years probably brought, but throws a lot of shade on this industry as well, like, because people they've been burnt for a lot of money, like, especially brands like big brands like Rolex. If you go into Rolex like during COVID and you were saying like, I want a Daytona, I want a Batman, or I want a Pepsi or whatever, they were making you buy like 100 grand plus worth of stuff, and then at the end of that, not even promising that you were going to get the thing. It was like it was an empty promise, like, we'll get you on the list if you spend 150 grand, or people are going to spend their 150 grand tying up all that equity, then get told they can't sell it, because if they sell it they're not going to get the Pepsi, or they get caught selling it. So then they've got all that money tied up, they've lost probably 30% of it because the watch is only worth what they've paid, and people have lost fortunes.
Raging, aren't they?
So where are you based with the business? Are you just kind of float about?
So I've got an office in Glasgow, an office in London as well,
Right,
but
okay.
I'm all over the place, like 24/7. I think everybody always asks me, like,
UK based or you?
I mean, all over. I was in Monaco a couple of weeks ago with a client. I sold like all over the place. I was in Germany a couple of weeks before that. Like, you need to be transitional. I think you need to be available for people, especially people that have got a lot of money. It's about convenience, not about the money.
Yeah.
So they want it. They want it like tomorrow if they're going somewhere.
See, going about everywhere, it must be class, because you can take some like different content. If you're in Monaco, you can take some cool content. We're then going to Germany the week later, and again, it's like you're trying that lifestyle of like floating about. I think
which I think helps the business as well, because people buy for people, right? Innit? Like, it's just, especially when you're talking about expensive stuff, like, people want to buy for somebody that they think, oh, it's quite, like, he's quite cool, I see quite cool stuff on his Instagram, whatever.
Yeah.
So it does help that when you get to go to these places, like, you're on the back of a guy's boat, or like,
You can take more cool.
like whatever, then it makes you look you've got like a gazillion quid when you don't. So like, but that helps the business move forward. So it's a kind of weird juxtaposition where you're trying to look like you've got fortunes but you don't. Which is just how Instagram works.
Instagram,
And that's why everybody
nutshell,
probably goes, he's a prick, before they meet me, because they like, honestly, like, it's the story of my life. Like, honestly, everybody probably goes, he's just a prick. Like, all the boys in Code say it. Like, honestly, I go to Code to get my haircut, right, and we play football with some of them on a Tuesday, and they were all like, we all thought you were a prick before you get your haircut in here. It's just because of Instagram. Because nobody's actually said a word to me, but it's just because they see your Instagram and they go, oh, he's showing off.
It's kind of like probably a bit of jealousy as well, isn't it? Because you've not even spoken a word to them, but that's what you need to do to sell your business, sell your product.
People don't look at it from that angle, but I always say life's about perspective, right? Change your perspective, change the way you're going to think about something. People look at that and go, he's just a showing off, he's just a prick. But if you were in my position and you were trying to sell something like that, you'd do the same thing. Because who's going to buy a 50 grand watch off somebody that's, lying about skint?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't work like that.
You say you're selling a lifestyle, you're not selling just a watch.
Exactly. So people just don't look at it like
that.
Like
that when the photo shoots, people say, how was your holiday?
Aye.
It's like, it wasn't a holiday. It was a
You
holiday.
make it look like holidays, because you're doing all these things and taking photos, but
you're up at
Instagram's just a highlight really of life.
Sunrise, just to get the perfect shot, so that you can like sell the dream of selling that. At the end of the day, sell the product.
That's what it is, but it's just a highlight. People forget that, like, Instagram's just a complete highlight. Nobody puts all the shit they're going through on Instagram.
So nobody would look at it the way.
Exactly. So it's just, oh, he's here, he's there, he's on this.
Obviously, it's like photo based now. When we first started social media, it was all text based, like Twitter and Facebook, and it was all very much text stuff. So people could write what they were up to and thing. I mean, I think people kind of bought into that, but it started flipping to pictures, and everybody's like, you didn't put any. Exactly. Like,
yeah, I'll give you the prime example, right? So in Monaco a couple of weeks ago, and so when you land at Nice Airport, you can get a taxi, right, from Nice Airport, but it's like an hour, but it's €180, right? Or you can get on a helicopter that's €220, and it's a 5-minute journey, right? So obviously you're going to put a post up, you're in a helicopter, it's cool as fuck, right? Obviously, I've never been in a helicopter. I've never been in a helicopter before, so like, walking towards a helicopter makes it look like you've chartered a helicopter to fly you from East to London.
People don't know the story of that. Do you know what
people
I mean?
never got a clue, right?
Yeah.
See the amount of people.
40 quid to save what?
40 quid to save you an hour. You're going to pay €180 anyway. Plus, then you literally just walk through the security guy, picks you up, walks you onto a helicopter. You're in the middle of Monaco in 5 minutes.
That story, like, oh, look at that prick, he's got a helicopter.
See the amount of people, mate. Oh, fuck's sake, showing off of that fucking helicopter. No, I'm like, mate, you would do the same thing, mate.
I think that's quite a Scottish thing, like.
Oh, mate, like, it's not. You don't think that? It 100% is, mate.
It's just like, oh, you're a prick, like, showing off and that. Where it was like we notice it in the fashion industry. People are a lot more brazen and like confident of how well they're doing and saying how well. Like, we would never do that, because we know people like, oh, look at you prick, think they're showing off. But like,
showing off.
They don't even think about it.
People in Glasgow and Scotland, I think in general, but especially I think people in Glasgow, what you see you doing well, as long as you're not doing better than them.
I always say that.
So like, the minute you start doing better than them, oh, he's a prick. And like, I'm not saying that I'm doing better than anybody else, but I'm just saying, like, when you're in a business
From
that,
your Instagram perspective, it looks as though you're.
yes, I mean, you think I had 100 million quid. Do you know what I mean? But and then people just then
helicopters and that.
exactly, then people just go, oh fuck's sake, you know what I mean? Must have 100 million quid. Like, it's just honestly like if I didn't put some of the client stuff that I've done with people, that's like, if I put that on Instagram, mate, people would be like, he's the biggest prick in the world. Like, so you do need to be selective, but you're also trying to pursue a lifestyle that
Plus
sells the product.
Plus, you're also dealing with people within that lifestyle, mate. So you need to fit into it. You can't just. Do you know what I mean? You can't be too standoffish of people that have got a certain lifestyle.
No, you need. Like, I'll tell you that funny story. A guy phoned me 6 months ago or something. He's like, "Oh, have you got a Platinum Daytona? Like, I'm going holiday on Friday. I need a Platinum Daytona." So I was like, "Aye, I've got one in stock." He was like, "That's fine." He said, "How much is that?" Sent him the link to the website. Paid a deposit. And he's like, "Can you get here tomorrow? I'm in London." So I said, "Aye, no problem." So jumped on a flight, paid his deposit, jumped down to London, met him in the office in London. And I'll not tell you what company it is because it'll give it away, right? But he brought his laptop and a sticker on his laptop. So I was like, "Oh, you into that kind of thing?" And he was like, "Oh, my dad's company." I was like, "All right, $750 million they turned over last year, and that's all just from a phone call." Like,
mad,
so you just never know. And from that one sale, then the guy's like, "Come here, come there. I want to introduce you to this guy. I want to introduce you to that guy. My pal's looking for this. My pal's looking for that." So you just never know the doors that you're going to unlock just from one daft phone call that I could have missed or no answered. So that's kind of when you just think, well, fuck what anyone else thinks, innit?
Exactly.
Like, you just need to do what's good for yourself and you know, look after your pals and your family, and that's that.
So. Good. Well, that sums up. Thanks for coming in, mate.
That was good.
Really interesting.
Nice,
really
it's interesting to hear things for a different side of another business.
We always say as well, see, like, speaking to people, no matter what they're doing, like, if they've started something themselves, you always see similarities. We spoke to St. Phoenix, like, they're a band, and you're like, some of the stuff they went through, like, we can like totally relate to, even yourself. Just you can relate to certain things.
What would you say is the biggest high and the biggest low that you've ever had in business?
Oh.
Sorry to put it on you. I know you're supposed to be interviewing me, but
obviously we're talking about COVID. See that week that COVID hit, that was the bigger, like, because we were just thought,
you're like panicking. We
anymore.
fucked.
Like, everything needs to shut down. Everything stops. Our finance directors around the house like, what are we fucking gonna do? And we were like, what are we fucking gonna do? You know what I mean? Like,
as if you had the answers.
Everybody was scrambling about the whole country.
I just think lots of people will probably have like that'll be a moment for them as well. Do you know what I mean? What the fuck was going on then? Biggest high? I don't know. I've always got an early memory. Like, I've told it a few times on the podcast, but like, literally at the start, like you're saying, we were putting all your money into stuff. So we'd bought like 100 t-shirts to start off with. We had jobs and we were like selling it, reinvesting it. We gave up our jobs and then we were still selling, reinvesting, not really taking any money. We had the big shipment coming in, so we was just doing t-shirts. We bought these jumpers and we'd split like basically half the money on the jumpers, half the money on the t-shirts. The jumpers came in, both deliveries were coming one day. Jumpers came in, we tried them on, mate. The shoulder, like the neck was like this size, and it was like that. And we were like that. We fucking spent half our money on this thing. What the fuck are we gonna do?
Some we did in Thailand.
We're like that. We're fucked. And then it was like the t-shirts are coming in, and we were sitting there for the rest of the day just panicking,
waiting on DHL delivering these boxes.
You think the t-shirt's gonna be fucked as well?
I'd be like, if these are fucked, that's us fucked.
There's a different
We've just
supplier.
given up our jobs and that, we're fucked. T-shirts came in, we opened them, they're alright, we were jumping out the living room. Yes, we're still in
It's
business.
amazing, isn't it? See, when you think like how close you come sometimes for like one decision or one thing going wrong that could change the rest of your life. Like when you look back on it, you think how far you've come now, like in terms of where you probably were at that point. Like you think if the t-shirts would have came, the next would have been fucked. We would never have had the life we've got.
Another house when you went to Ibiza, remember, and you were just every single person had the brand on an Ibiza.
That must be quite a cool thing.
That was cool.
Like,
that was cool. There was a period where, like, because the logo was so prominent, which you'll maybe probably see now that everyone's maybe
especially rebranded a wee bit, made it
changed it a bit, which is we're seeing the effects of that coming back now. People are like, yeah, I'm quite into my minimal stuff and all that, which is ideal, but going to like and seeing the logo everywhere, your brand, like, holy shit, this is mad.
That must be quite cool.
Just people willing to spend money that they've worked hard for on a brand that you've created is nice. Do you know what I mean?
No, definitely.
Sure.
Cool.
No, thanks very much.
Thanks for coming.
No worries, boys.
Cheers.